How smart are dogs actually? Way smarter than you probably think. And by the end of this video, you're going to look at your furry best friend in a completely different way. We're talking about abilities that scientists are still trying to fully understand, intelligence that rivals some primates, and emotional awareness that's honestly kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. Get ready to discover just how remarkable that goofy dog of yours truly is. So let's start with something that's going to blow your mind right off the bat. Your dog can actually sense when you're about to have a seizure, a heart attack, or a dangerous drop in blood sugar, sometimes up to 45 minutes before it happens. And we're not just talking about trained medical alert dogs here. Regular pet dogs have been documented detecting these life-threatening changes in their owners without any special training whatsoever. Here's what's incredible about this. Dogs can detect tiny chemical changes in your body through scent that even the most advanced medical equipment sometimes misses. When your blood sugar drops or you're about to have a seizure, your body releases specific compounds through your skin and breath. Your dog's nose has up to 300 million scent receptors compared to our measly 6 million, and the part of their brain dedicated to analyzing smells is about 40 times larger than ours proportionally. They're basically walking around with a supercomputer for a nose. But it's not just that they can smell these changes. The really remarkable part is that they understand these changes mean something is wrong with you, and they try to alert you or get help. There are countless stories of dogs who started acting strangely, barking, pawing at their owner, or refusing to let them do certain activities right before a medical emergency. That's not just instinct. That's your dog understanding cause and effect, recognizing patterns, and taking deliberate action to protect you. Now let's talk about something else that'll make you appreciate your dog even more. Dogs are one of the only animals on the planet that naturally understand human pointing. This might not sound like a big deal at first, but think about it. When you point at something, you're using a symbolic gesture to direct attention to an object that's separate from your hand. That requires understanding that the pointing finger represents something beyond itself. Here's where it gets really interesting. Wolves, who are dogs' closest relatives, don't understand pointing even when raised by humans. Chimpanzees, who are way closer to us genetically and are considered highly intelligent, also struggle with this. But your dog? They got it figured out, probably when they were just a few weeks old. Puppies as young as 8 weeks can follow human pointing gestures, which means this ability is hardwired into them through thousands of years of evolution alongside humans. What this tells us is that dogs haven't just learned to live with humans. They've actually evolved cognitive abilities specifically designed to communicate and cooperate with us. Your dog's brain has been shaped by their relationship with humans to the point where they can read our gestures and intentions in ways that even our closest primate relatives can't. That's absolutely wild when you think about it. And speaking of reading humans, let's talk about your dog's ability to understand your emotions just by looking at your face. Dogs are the only non-primate species we know of that looks at the left side of human faces first when trying to read emotions. Why does this matter? Because the left side of human faces displays emotions more clearly due to how our brains are wired. Your dog isn't just looking at your face randomly. They're specifically scanning the area that gives them the most accurate emotional information. But wait, it gets even better. Dogs can distinguish between happy, angry, sad, and fearful facial expressions in humans, and they respond differently to each one. When researchers showed dogs photos of happy faces versus angry faces, the dogs' heart rates changed. They looked at the images differently, and they showed clear preferences for approaching or avoiding based on the emotion displayed. They're not just recognizing that your face looks different. They understand what those differences mean emotionally. There was this fascinating study where dogs were shown pictures of their owners displaying different emotions, and the dogs could accurately match those facial expressions to corresponding emotional sounds, like happy voices or angry voices. That means dogs have something called cross-modal emotional processing, which is a fancy way of saying they can integrate information from multiple senses to understand emotions. That's incredibly sophisticated cognitive work, and it's something we see in very few species. Let me share a story that perfectly demonstrates this. A friend of mine was going through a really tough time and was crying on her couch one evening. Her dog, who normally loves to play and is super energetic, came over and just laid his head on her lap and stayed completely still for over an hour. He didn't try to play, didn't ask for food, didn't get distracted by anything. He just stayed there with her. The next day, when she was feeling better and watching TV on the same couch, he was back to his normal, playful self. That dog understood the emotional difference between those two situations and adjusted his behavior accordingly. Now let's dive into something that might surprise you about how dogs think about time. Dogs have what scientists call episodic memory, which means they can remember specific events from their past, not just learned behaviors. Your dog doesn't just remember that sitting gets them a treat. They can actually recall that time you took them to the beach 3 months ago, or that weird sound that scared them last week. Here's what makes this so remarkable. For a long time, scientists thought episodic memory was uniquely human because it requires a sense of self and the ability to mentally travel back in time to re-experience events. But studies have shown that dogs can remember complex sequences of events and recall them later, even when those memories aren't tied to any survival benefit or training. Your dog has a mental scrapbook of experiences with you, and they can pull up those memories and relive them in some way. This also explains why your dog gets excited when you grab specific items like their leash or your car keys. They're not just responding to a trained cue. They're remembering all the fun times associated with those objects and anticipating that something similar is about to happen. They're literally using past experiences to predict future events, which requires pretty advanced cognitive processing. And here's something that'll really make you think differently about your dog. Dogs can learn over 160 words and gestures, which puts their language comprehension roughly on par with a human toddler around 2 years old. But some dogs have been documented understanding well over 1,000 words. There was a border collie named Chaser who learned the names of 1,022 different toys and could retrieve any specific one on command. That's not just memorization. She understood that each name corresponded to a unique object and could categorize them correctly. But vocabulary isn't even the most impressive part. Dogs understand grammar to some degree. They can tell the difference between get the ball and ball get the, and they respond appropriately to the correct structure. They also understand tone and context, so they know that "wanna go for a walk?" said in an excited voice means something different than the same word said in a neutral tone while you're talking on the phone. Let's compare this to cats for a second, since a lot of people wonder about the intelligence difference. Cats can typically learn around 25 to 50 words, and while they're incredibly smart in their own ways, especially when it comes to problem solving for independent survival, dogs have evolved a completely different type of intelligence that's focused on social cooperation and communication with humans. Neither is better or worse. They're just different types of smart designed for different purposes. Here's another mind-blowing ability your dog has. They can do basic math, not like algebra or anything, but dogs can count and understand quantities up to about 4 or 5. In experiments, when dogs were shown treats being placed behind a screen and then the screen was removed showing a different number of treats, the dogs stared longer at the wrong number, indicating they noticed something was off. They had expectations about how many treats should be there based on what they saw going in. Dogs also understand fairness and inequality. There's a famous study where dogs were asked to give their paw for a reward. When one dog got a treat and another dog doing the same behavior got nothing, the dog who was left out refused to keep participating and showed signs of frustration. They weren't just upset about not getting a treat, they were specifically bothered by the unfair treatment compared to the other dog. That requires social awareness and the ability to compare outcomes, which is pretty sophisticated thinking. Let me tell you about something that happened with a dog I know that perfectly shows this. The owner has 2 dogs, and she would always give them treats at the same time. One day, she accidentally gave one dog 2 treats and the other dog 1 treat. The dog who got 1 treat literally sat there staring at her and wouldn't eat his treat until she corrected the situation. Once both dogs had the same amount, he happily ate his. That dog was keeping track and demanded fairness. Now let's talk about something that scientists are still trying to fully figure out. Dogs seem to have a sense of time that goes beyond just biological rhythms. They know the difference between you being gone for 5 minutes versus 5 hours, and they can anticipate routine events with remarkable accuracy even when there are no external cues. There are so many stories of dogs who know exactly when their owner is about to come home from work, sometimes starting to wait by the door 15 minutes before they arrive, even when the owner comes home at slightly different times each day. Some researchers think dogs might be tracking the decay of your scent in the house throughout the day, essentially using smell as a clock. As your scent fades, they learn to associate certain scent levels with your return time. How incredible is that? Your dog might literally be smelling time. But there's also evidence that dogs have some kind of internal clock for routine events. Dogs who get fed at the same time every day will often start getting excited and heading to their food bowl at the exact right time, even if there are no other cues like you being in the kitchen or hearing food preparation sounds. Their anticipation starts building at just the right moment, suggesting they have some internal tracking system for time intervals. Here's something else that shows just how tuned in dogs are to humans. Dogs are the only animals that follow human gaze not just to see what we're looking at, but to try to understand what we're thinking about. When you look at something, your dog will often look at the same thing and then look back at your face to see your reaction, essentially checking in to understand why that object has your attention. That's called social referencing, and it's a behavior we typically only see in very young human children. This ability helps dogs navigate uncertain situations. If a dog encounters something new or potentially scary, they'll often look at their owner's face to gauge whether they should be worried or not. If you react calmly, the dog is more likely to approach the new thing. If you seem anxious, the dog will be more cautious. They're literally using your emotions as a guide for how to respond to the world around them. Let's talk about problem solving for a minute, because this is where dog intelligence really shines in a different way. While dogs might not be as good as cats at figuring out physical puzzles on their own, dogs have something even more valuable. They know when to ask for help. When a dog encounters a problem they can't solve, they'll look at their human, make eye contact, and essentially communicate, "Hey, can you help me with this?" That's called social problem solving, and it shows that dogs understand humans as agents who can help them achieve goals. Wolves and even cats typically don't do this. When they encounter a problem, they'll keep trying to solve it themselves or give up, but they don't naturally seek human assistance. Dogs, through evolution, have learned that cooperation with humans is often more effective than pure independence. Some people might see this as dogs being less intelligent than animals who solve problems alone, but actually, knowing when to ask for help and who to ask is a really sophisticated social skill. There's also growing evidence that dogs can learn by watching other dogs and humans, which is called observational learning. If one dog figures out how to open a door or get a treat out of a puzzle toy, other dogs watching can learn the same trick faster. They're not just randomly trying things until something works, they're actually processing what they saw another dog do and replicating the successful behavior. That requires memory, attention, and the ability to translate observed actions into their own movements. Here's one more thing that'll make you appreciate your dog's intelligence. Dogs have what researchers call theory of mind, at least to some degree. This means they can understand that other individuals have thoughts, knowledge, and intentions that might be different from their own. Now, this is still being debated in the scientific community, but there's solid evidence that dogs adjust their behavior based on what they think you know or don't know. For example, dogs are more likely to steal food when you're not looking or when your back is turned compared to when you're watching them directly. That means they understand that your line of sight determines what you can see, and they use that knowledge to their advantage. They're not just responding to whether you're physically present. They're considering your visual perspective and using it to decide whether they can get away with something. There have been studies where dogs were told not to take a treat, and researchers varied whether the room was lit or dark. Dogs were way more likely to take the forbidden treat when the room was dark, suggesting they understood that darkness prevents humans from seeing. They adjusted their behavior based on what they thought you could perceive, which is honestly pretty impressive cognitive work. So after learning all of this, how smart are dogs actually? The answer is they're incredibly smart, just in ways that are specifically designed for living and communicating with humans. They might not be able to solve a Rubik's Cube or do calculus, but they have emotional intelligence, social awareness, and communication abilities that are genuinely extraordinary. Your dog understands you in ways that most other animals simply cannot, And that bond you feel with them is based on real, measurable cognitive abilities that have evolved over thousands of years. Every time your dog looks at you with those loving eyes, they're not just seeing their food provider or their playmate. They're reading your emotions, remembering your shared experiences, and understanding you as an individual with thoughts and feelings. That's something pretty special, and it's worth appreciating just how remarkable your furry best friend really is. Drop a comment and tell me about a time your dog did something that made you think they were way smarter than you gave them credit for. I love hearing these stories because they always show just how incredible these animals are. If you loved learning about how smart dogs really are, you need to watch this next video about the secret ways your dog is trying to communicate with you every single day. You'll never miss another signal once you know what to look for.